Welcome to MDReviews. Today we're going to be taking a look at a nifty little app that certainly got our attention. It goes by the name of Moonbeam. Moonbeam is essentially a podcast seeker/player, but it takes a rather original approach to achieving this. Moonbeam provides you with a personalized podcast feed depending on your preference. In an age where most people favor convenience, Moonbeam definitely hits a marketable niche. Now we're going to take a look at this app, use it a little bit, and see what it offers. Let's take a look. Now, an obvious benefit to this application is that it's very streamlined and user-friendly. Everything you need is pretty much at the forefront. You have your home section here where you can continue listening to any podcasts you may have previously been listening to, and you have the arguable centerpiece of the application, the Beam. Now, the Beam is the aforementioned personalized podcast feed. Similarly to TikTok, it provides content based on your likes and preferences. I find that this method of seeking podcasts works considerably well the more you use the application. Its intuitive system begins to get a feel for what you respond to and provides suggestions accordingly. It also takes the liberty of notifying you when a new episode of a podcast you like is released. Similar to Spotify, podcasts are also separated by clever little categories, such as podcasts to fall asleep to or pocket vacations. It certainly helps when trying to find your podcast niche. And you also have the option of saving clips and podcasts, so that's very beneficial. Going into the content creator side of this app, podcast creators are able to promote their show by creating clips to be displayed on the Beam section. That way, they can gain more of a following through those who like their content and share it on social media. Viewers can further support their favorite podcast creators by giving them tips, ranging from $1 to $10, of which Moonbeam will not take a cut of. I would say this is an invaluable feature for anyone that's trying to get their podcast out there. We've found overall that it's a solid little app. It certainly delivers on everything it promises. But the question is that enough? One of the downsides to this app is that it's still relatively new. Seeing that it's new, it does not have much of a following. It's subject to constant and frequent updates, so don't get too attached to the way the app currently functions, as this is subject to changing rather quickly. It also has the limitation of only focusing on one type of media, podcasts and podcasts only. This can work to its disservice, potentially alienating a broader audience. Not only that, but Moonbeam only provides audio for their clips and not video. Another downside is that it does not have many podcasts that are available on other platforms. One example would be the Wildcast, which is known for having a pretty sizable audience. The market is quite saturated with options for listening to podcasts. This is something that could stand in the way of Moonbeam's success. Platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube are well established and well known, of course. Not only that, but they are more broad and flexible with their medium, not limiting themselves to audio and in some cases being known for providing a much wider range of content. Spotify is currently one of the main platforms for listening to podcasts, and it has recently incorporated the option of viewing video podcasts. As we mentioned before, Moonbeam is missing many notable podcasts on its platform as well, like the Wildcast and the infamous Joe Rogan Experience. These podcasts are of course available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and certainly YouTube. Though Moonbeam is not perfect, they do their best to meet with consumer reviews and update accordingly. Back in the early stages of its release, there have been reviews where people complained about not being able to resume a saved clip wherever they left off, or having to start over an entire podcast. There have also been reviews where users complained about not having the option to pause a clip, and Moonbeam promptly resolved all these issues. Ultimately, the application is fairly well made and intuitive. We mentioned that the interface is easy to use, and the team is very responsive to feedback. It does have a few limitations that are somewhat hard to ignore, and could I in all honesty say that this provides everything a podcast lover is seeking? I would say no. The aforementioned absence of video podcasts is a growing issue, as more and more applications begin to standardize it. And its incomplete selection will certainly be enough to turn off more than a few podcast fans, such as myself, from considering it for any prolonged use. Thank you for joining us at MDReviews. We hope this was an insightful scoop about an interesting little app.